What is up, everybody? Brian Mendler back in your life on another edition of the podcast. And today I am super excited to be joined by my friend. I've known her for a little while now, Sara Soehlke, joining me. And it's good to see you. So I know I've known you for a little bit, but I actually wanted to let you know right when we started that I got an email from one of your teachers saying, you really need to have Sara on your podcast. And I don't know
Oh,
if you knew
yeah.
that. Yeah.
No,
So
I did
but that's
not.
not the only reason. But it's certainly, I was like, you know what? I do. She was like, she's a super fan, so make sure you have her on. So
I
anyway,
really
it's
am.
good to see you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
Good.
Crazy school year, all that kind of stuff, but things are going good. Things are good.
So when you say crazy school year, what do you mean by that? Is it the same as last year or a little bit better?
So I feel like it's different. We're back full time, and I think it's just that the almost social gap that so many kids have right now. Just trying to get back in the groove of things, get those social norms back in place, get everybody back to where they need to be. But I feel like every day we get there a little bit more. It's stressful. It's been stressful for lots of people, but everybody's hanging in there. Obviously I work with an awesome staff. I'm not sure who did that because I don't like to be on camera and things like that. So that's funny. But I am a super fan. I feel like finding you and following you and watching you changed everything I did as far as working with kids and talking to
Wow.
kids, all kids, my own personal kids, everybody. So, I bring you up a lot and, channel you often.
Wow. Well, so a lot to unpack there. So first, I'll just start with I think it's crazy right now when I don't know if you saw the graphic that was going on social media, but it showed like 7th graders. The last time they had a normal school year, they were in 4th grade.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy to me. That's crazy to me, right? And so it doesn't surprise me that I think that's what we're seeing in a lot of places. We're seeing social skills at a level that, are way behind, right? You got these 7th graders in body, right? Their body, they've grown to become 7th graders, but emotionally, I think they're still stuck back where they were. And what an incredibly challenging way to have to try to teach, right? Where you've got, and what I think is happening now more than ever is I think everybody's finally learning what it's like to be a self-contained special ed teacher. Because welcome to our world, right? This is what we've always had to do, where you've got
Right.
kids at totally different levels and you're literally juggling multiple things at the same time.
Yeah, and I think, our teachers are, like I said, doing an awesome job with it, but that's a big part of it. Kids who are ready to go, keep going, and then we have, other kids who are especially socially kind of stunted in that, not sure where they're going. Parents had a hard time finding childcare, so, you know, internet was an issue here. We went above and beyond. A lot of a lot of good things came out of having a pandemic like that, which I know sounds crazy, but we definitely saw, even though we knew the need was there in some of our communities that didn't have internet or the ability to get it or the homes, it was more, we knew it was there, but we hadn't really talked about it. So now here we are, we've got to get it for them. So we were able to work as a community. We're lucky here with our English as second language support people do an awesome job getting out to the community and helping. So we were able to make sure all of our kids have devices. Day one, all the kids had devices, even starting this year. So I feel like those types of things have really, and the relationship building that a lot of people did that you maybe necessarily didn't have to do before, but now it just brought relationships to the forefront. It's, all we talk about.
I say that all the time. Like everything that I teach and that I've always been like a proponent of is kind of multiplied times 10 now in this era. And it's
Yeah.
that relentless ability to connect with kids and I keep saying this to teachers. The only thing that I care about this year is that you make my kids' day better. Like
Yep.
when my two children go to school, do they come home saying, I'm excited to go back? And if they do, I'm happy. And if you mix in a little bit of 3 plus 3, I'll be happy as well, right? Like, but I mean that, like make their life good first, make them happy, make them excited to be there, and
Oh yeah.
then right, the content kind of weaves into that versus making the content the focal point.
Yeah, at the end of my email, my sign off is, do things today that make the kids want to come back tomorrow. I know you've talked about before that we're basically salespeople. Our product is school and we're selling it to kids. So we have to do things to make them want to come back, and their parents want them to come back. I tell people all the time, and I know you've talked about this, we're getting the best that families have. Everybody is sending the best they have. If they had something better, they would send it. They're bringing us the best that they have, and we have to remember that. And I think a lot of times that helps, and that helps teachers understand where kids are coming from, and then have those relationship building conversations with kids, because it's so important to just know them.
And I think it's also important to remember the stress that all of this has caused on families and on parents, and continues to cause. I'm actually lucky now and grateful that I moved to Florida and we don't have this. But I was just saying to my wife yesterday, like, my two kids, they're in second and fourth grade, my two that are in school, and they love school this year. They're having an amazing year, both of them, which I'm so grateful for. But I said to my wife, I said, can you imagine, like, if on a Sunday night, randomly out of nowhere, we got a call saying, because your kid sat next to somebody at lunch, they have to miss school now for 2 weeks, like, or we're not going to allow them back for a certain amount of time. Like, my two children would lose their minds if that happened right now. And I'm glad that I live in a place where they're not doing that. But they did that last year, and they're still doing that to a lot of people. And whether people agree or not with that, that's a whole other story, right? Oh, yeah. But to pretend like that doesn't cause stress on a family, right? I mean, we have a little baby here. Like, if we got that call on a Sunday night, all of a sudden now my wife is home for 2 weeks while I'm traveling, and she has to now take care of 3 kids instead of a baby while they, are perfectly healthy. Like, that's a stress and an anxiety that I think families have felt throughout this time. And, and I think just more than ever, it's a time to acknowledge that. Like, again, I don't think it's anyone's fault. Like, I'm not blaming anyone for it, but to pretend like that doesn't exist, I think is disingenuous. And it's important to say to parents, we understand this and we're sorry. Like, we're sorry. Yeah. Like, it's not up to us. Right.
Right. Yeah. And that's, I think that, parents know, like, we're trying so many things. I'm so thankful, especially for our high school kids in the district and things. We've gotten to have homecoming and, all those sorts of things, football games, and, so soccer, all those things, everything's back in that way. And I'm so happy for the kids. Last week was homecoming week. They had a blast, had the big parade in town, and, everybody had a great time. So it's nice to have those things and get to have the kids normal activities again.
Feel normal more than ever, right? Yes. I know, it's so important. So tell me a little bit about how you found me. Like, when you say that I helped impact your teaching and your career, how did you find me, and how did that, like, what sort of things can you talk about that made that sort of happen?
So I was at the I can't remember the name of the Going Forward Directions Conference. And you spoke at the Directions Conference, and I was like, yeah, everything he's saying. Yeah. So then from that, I just, social media, bought your books, those sorts of things, did lots of reading, encouraged. We had a book study with, I think we did that, Watch Your Mouth.
Watch Your Mouth.
And then Power Struggles was another one I read that I really liked. And so just from anytime you're any place around here, I try to go to that workshop, and we were so lucky to have you in Collinsville. I was so excited. That was a great day. And
it was a great day.
Social media. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And so through social media, things like that, the relationship building, the different ways, a lot of times verbatim, I use your words, and it works. It works. 100% works.
What specifically? Like, what are some things? I don't want to put you on the spot. Like,
no,
but is there anything specifically that you're like, this is a concept, or this is a thing that I use probably more than ever, or that you think about?
So one of, the big things when there is a student in crisis, I'll say to them just kind of quietly, I'm like, let's just go to my office. Let's just go. You don't have to talk to me. I don't have to talk to you. Let's just walk down there, and they walk down. I have water in my office. I have snacks, hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Yeah. Shout out
You
to
know,
Leah Kovacevic. She's my friend in Nebraska who taught me that. Hungry,
okay,
angry,
awesome.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and what Sarah just said is that's my one of my favorite acronyms for, and the focus is on the anger, right? So the anger is what you'll see it from a kid, but instead of looking at the anger, look at hungry, lonely, tired, because usually it's a combination of those three that are causing the anger.
Yep. Sit here for a while, have some water, and then maybe a snack, granola bar or something, and then they'll start talking. And some kids it's a matter of they just say, "Okay, I'm ready to go back to class." I'm like, "Okay, head on back to class. Let's turn it around. Let's have a good rest of the day. Let not let one little thing ruin your day." But I think those communications, relationship building, just kind of seeing with the kids. Working with one student right now, in particular, who one day in the cafeteria just refused to do anything. And, I called dad. I think that's a big thing too, is that you have to, parents want to help. So reach out. Can I have your help? And dad came up, and as they talked, I was talking about different things to get him involved in. And band, when band was mentioned, the little boy's eyes lit up, and dad was kind of like, "No, we're not doing that." And I was like, "Well, hang on. I said to the kid, I said, "Now I'm going to take one for the team. I'm going to tell you everything you need to do band. I can take care of. I can help you, but you're going to have to be on your own team and show that you can do it." So, dad agreed to it. He's done. Is he perfect? No, we're not perfect. Nobody's expecting that, but huge leaps and bounds. Comes in the morning. He initiates a hug with me. Yesterday he said to me before I said to him, he was like, "I love you. Bye." I was like, "All right, bye. I love you too." Those sorts of things. I don't think kids a lot of times hear that nearly enough, or know that, we do love and care about them and we're on their side. So he's, doing really well. And I've also, texting makes everything so much better because it's quick and easy. And, I've sent text to his dad's like, "Hey, things are going really well." Like, and parents want to hear that. Yeah, thanks. It's doing a lot better at home too. So like I said, is it perfect? No, but so much better than where it was before. Finding those things that kids want to do, and that, I'm letting them know I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to help you out.
It's interesting to me that when you gave the idea, dad's instinctive reaction was no.
No.
So why do you think that was?
I think just fear of it wasn't something that dad participated in. Dad was, I think more sports oriented, things like that. And, talking to dad about, "Hey, let's, find our niche. Is this something he's going to do forever? I don't know. Am I in 5 or 6 years going to be watching him in the high school band? I don't know. But right now it's something he's interested in learning." And I think once dad heard that, whether he was still apprehensive, he was kind of, "Okay, yeah, let's try it. Let's give it a try." That was his apprehension, I think. Probably finances too, wondering that the unknown of, am I going to get a bill for a new tuba or whatever?
Right.
But, I said, "I'll take care of all of it." And our band program's fantastic. And, Mr. Calza, who's our band teacher, right away, "Oh yeah, I want him. That sounds
That's
great. That sounds
awesome.
great." So, we're lucky in that way that we have so many teachers who are, willing to do whatever it takes.
What grade is that kid?
Fifth grader. So we have
Fifth
all
grade.
fifth and sixth grade here. So we're sort of we're a melting pot for the district. I know you were.
You keep sliding over to your
Oh, I'm
side.
sorry.
Try to straighten yourself out.
I'm a
That's all
mover.
right. There
Okay,
you go.
sorry.
There you go. Perfect.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. You're
So
a
we have
leader
all the
like
fifth
me.
and sixth grade. So we're about 966 kids. So, it makes it difficult. Some of them are coming from elementary schools, literally with 110 students,
Wow.
K through 4. Others are bigger elementary schools. So it's always interesting to see the kids intermix and kind of find each other and find their group. But, we work really hard to make sure, and hopefully parents feel comfortable then calling and saying, "Hey, we're not adjusting well," or, "Hey, everything's going really well." So
It's so interesting and I think fun when you find that connection for a kid, or at least you help a kid find that connection. I remember your story reminded me of a kid that I used to work with who came to my self-contained class and he didn't want to be there. Jeff, his name was, he was angry, right? He came from regular ed, and I got that, you get that a lot sometimes. And it's not that they didn't want to be with me. It's that they didn't want the stigma of being all of a sudden in special ed and in self-contained. And he was angry and didn't want to do anything and would refuse to do stuff. And one day, and I didn't make him at first. Like, he would sit in my class and I would just let him sit there and he would kind of doodle and draw. And one day he was getting up to leave and he tripped and he dropped his stuff. Like, so his stuff kind of splattered, his notebook kind of, and I was helping him pick it up. And some of the most amazing drawings came out of his notebook. Like, I'm talking about, like, where I looked at him and I was like, holy cow, like, did you draw these? And he was like, yeah, when I sit in class, that's what I do. And I was like, this is incredible stuff. Like, and he was like, well, I just like to do it. And so I brought him down to the art teacher and I was and I said to the art teacher, I said, I don't know what to do other than introduce you to him and show you these. And if you can't figure out what to do with him now, like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I'm bringing you a kid who's like can dribble like crazy, and you're the coach. Like, let's make this work for him. And it was amazing how finding that one thing or that one niche for a kid can just transfer to so many different places in school and make everything better.
Yeah, they definitely gives them something to work for and something that they know they're going to enjoy and they want to get to do. So that's always in the back of my mind. And, just talking to kids, those personal connections, to reach the kids, like you say, reach the kids that are hardest to reach. You have to be willing to do what, nobody else is. Yeah. Not that nobody else, but, our students that are involved, like in football on Fridays, they'll have their league jerseys on and things like that. So it's nice to recognize those kids. Oh, you play football. Good luck this weekend. Have fun. Make sure you let me know how the game goes this weekend, on Monday when I see you in the cafeteria in the morning. Kids look forward to that. They respond to that. They want adults to see them.
No question. No question. So what made you want to get into this line of work? Were you a good student when you were a kid in school growing up?
My mom claims not to remember any of anything. It's just, my mom was a teacher, so she's a retired teacher. And and my sister is a teacher. She's actually a K2 instructional coach in our district now. So when I was growing up, I was kind of in her shadow. My sister walk the line straight and narrow. I was at school for the social aspect of it. That's really all that mattered to me, was my friends. And I, I'll tell parents when I'm talking to them on the phone and we've had a problem with a cell phone or something, they'll go, that phone, I'm taking their phone away. And I'm like, that's okay. You're the parent, you make your choice, but this is their world. We're just living in it. And I'm like, I can tell you that I would have worn my parents down. People will say, oh, 5th and 6th grade, they're too young for phones. I'm like, I just got to tell you that I would have worn my parents down. I would have made them crazy. I would have had a phone. Even if they wouldn't have been able to have a phone, I would have had a phone because I would have been that, I probably have some undiagnosed ADHD tendencies, from when I was in school. My 4th grade teacher was the most amazing teacher. He was funny. He was fun. Mr. Pluta, the greatest. And that was a year I remember really enjoying school. But I think it was his humor and, he kind of made everybody feel like they belong. And I'll never forget that. I'll always remember that from him. So I was not a good student. I made it. I got by. And if I connected with a teacher, I did well. And if I didn't, then it was going to be a long year, mostly for my mom.
Yeah. So let's just talk about phones real quick, because that's a huge hot button issue that I get questions about all the time. So 5th and 6th grade, what's your take on phones? What's your stance? What do you do with that? How do you handle it?
So, I mean, for the most part, they have to be off in their backpack or their locker. We don't want to see them. We know that kids are going to, test us on that. And, here and there, we have to say, take it to the office, pick it up at the end of the day, have those conversations. Sometimes a parent will have to come and pick it up. The social media aspect of it is when it gets to be the worst, that, thinking they're behind that screen and they're going to say things. So I think teaching the social responsibility behind it is really, really important. We have had incidents where kids just do silly things, make terrible choices, thinking maybe they're not going to get caught. I don't know why they think they're not going to get caught, but that's what they do. It's mostly the Snapchat,
So what
Instagram.
do you mean by terrible choices? Like what do you mean specifically?
Um, Telling other kids I'm gonna beat you up,
Mm,
the cussing, the kind of threatening each other, and then kids will say, "Oh, I'm afraid to come to school because of this." It's, rarely if ever totally one-sided, but again, it's the social norms of this isn't how you treat each other. This
right.
this isn't how we should treat each other at all. Which when I was in school, you stuck a note in somebody's locker, if you didn't like them, and now the phones just make it that much more out there. But honest conversations, I call the kids the YouTube generation, because if we don't tell them about it, YouTube will tell them about it.
Right, right. Yeah, social media is a tough one because it's a tool, and like any tool in the world, it's good and bad at the same
Right.
time, right? A lawnmower can make your lawn look really good. It can also cut off your foot if you don't know how
Yeah,
to use it, right?
you're right. You're right.
Right. And social media is the same kind of thing. And that's what I used to tell my students. Like, you got to be careful with tools. Tools are dangerous. If you know how to use them appropriately, they're great. If you don't, either learn how to use them or stay away from them. And
I
one
agree.
of the things I used to teach my kids, a couple things. Number one is that there's no such thing as delete, right? So the word delete is an irrelevant word nowadays in our
Mhm.
society, because I don't care how much you look at society now, right? I mean, somehow people find other people's emails from 10 years ago or 12 years ago and they
Mhm.
resurface, right? There is no such, once you put it out there,
Yeah,
it's like the toothpaste. You can't get it back in the bottle. So you better think really long and hard about everything that you do before you hit the button send,
yep.
And and to always remember that. And I always used to tell the kids, it was like, so I own, a frozen yogurt store outside of education. And it's the first thing that we do when we get a job application is we look at their social media. The very first thing we do
Yeah.
is, and we often eliminate people based on just scrolling down their social media. We can eliminate people because I can tell your judgment. I can see what kind of judgment as a person you have.
Yep.
So are you thinking it through to that extent that some random person that you don't even know, who you just handed a job application to, is looking there first for you, right? Because
Yeah.
that is
Kids
the
tell them.
impression. And I've scared some kids straight by that. Like, I think some kids that, were like, holy cow, I've never seen it as that. I thought I was just talking to my friends. Nope, you're
Right.
not just talking to your friends. You're
Oh yeah.
talking to the
They think it.
entire world.
Yeah, they think it's going to go away. That that being a good online citizen, um, you know, they've got to learn that, and that has to be something that we teach them because the world moves so far, so fast. I mean, in 1994, when I went away to college and got my first email address, there was really no reason to even go to the student union to check my email because
Right,
nobody really had it. And
right.
we come all this way, so fast that it's almost impossible to keep up with and to
Yeah.
just, but again, that's open, honest conversations with kids and with families too. I do that. My boys are in sixth grade here. I have twins and they're in sixth grade here. And I really try to have those open, honest conversations with them. Like I said, if I don't tell them, YouTube's going to tell them.
Right. No question about it. So, what do you do when a kid has their phone out and they're not being appropriate with it? Because I see that a lot, and it's a question I get, and it's a hard one for me because, I have my phone. I mean, it's right here, right? So,
Yep.
so right, you probably have yours within arm's length of you, right? So, it's a thing that's with us all the time, and I think it's important too, you know like I've seen teachers use it for good in the classroom. Like, I saw a teacher one time, and this was a while ago, it was in Nebraska, where she says to her class, all right, she put the notes up on her screen, and she told everyone to take out their phone and take a picture of the notes. And she was like, we used to take notes in class. Now they
Right.
all have phones, so they just take pictures. And she's like, and now I know they have their notes. There's no excuse. And she's like, they're riding the bus to an away game. Well, take out your phone and study your notes for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You're in line at Taco Bell waiting for
I
your
love
food.
it.
That's fine. Take out your notes. Study them for a few minutes, right? So there's this like constant double-edged sword with it, I feel.
Yeah, and luckily we don't have a whole lot of problems like that here. I think with our kids being just that little bit younger, and being able to say like, this is the rule, you cannot have your phone out, and they're good about it. And I think parents support that and say, hey, you're lucky to, some schools say you can't even have it. You're lucky you even get to have it. So, have it. And and I'm one who, a lot of times parents' phone numbers change and things. If kids are needing to call home, I'm like, do you have your phone with you? They're like, yeah, it's in my backpack. Go get it and make the phone call. Come in here, and just make the phone call. So I think if you make it a huge deal, a lot of times it becomes a bigger deal, because now I'm going to show you, I'm going to get on my phone. But
right, kind of like everything else in school.
Right. So if you just kind of, ride with it, and, kids have earbuds in the morning or something, just kind of give them that and they take them out.
Right.
I think kids here, we really focus on, having that respect aspect. And, I do that with kids. I think that it would be appalling to all the other kids around them if I were to say to a kid, put your phone away, and they would shoot back at me with a no or something. I think that the other kids would be absolutely appalled that you would have the nerve, to say that and develop those relationships. Kids are going to respond to that, and they'll take up for me if need be.
Right. And that's because you've spent the time when it's not a problem, when there's not a problem going on. You've spent time constantly connecting. And, that's one of the things that I teach teachers all the time is, the goal is to get it to a point where the kid will do anything for you. Right. It's not about what you're asking them to do. It's about the fact that you're the one asking them to do it. And because you're the one asking, fine, I'll do it. But and that's, it's interesting because the other one that I'm getting a lot this year on a lot of my consult sessions is the mask thing, because there's a lot of kids that are defying the mask rule, or they're not wearing it properly, or whatever. Right. It's just not, it's another thing. Right. That's leading to a lot of power struggles. And so they're always asking me, like, what do I do about it? So I'm like, well, I don't know if you're going to agree with me, but what I would do is I would do the same thing I did with hats. Right. So I taught in a school that didn't allow hats, but I'm a hat wearer, obviously. Right. I collect varsity baseball hats from every school that I work in. Right. I played baseball. Yeah. I wear hats all the time. Like, I'm a hypocrite if I go in trying to pretend like I don't like hats, right? It's totally disingenuous. So what I would say to the kids is, I didn't invent this rule. I didn't create this rule. This rule isn't up to me. It's just not. There are people in other positions that make rules sometimes at your jobs, and this is one of them. All right. So if it were up to me, I'm with you. I wouldn't care how you wore that thing, but you're going to make me look bad. And I don't like looking bad. Yep. And I don't like when you make me look bad, right? And you don't like making me look bad, do you? Well, no, okay. Then when you walk here, or you do this or you do that, pull that thing up over your nose so I don't look like a fool. But it was always about not making me look bad. But you can't do that if you don't have a connection with the kid, because the kid be like, I don't care how I make you look. Right.
I hope you have more work to do. I hope you're
right. Correct.
Right, exactly. And that's how I am with a lot of that stuff. And I'm the same way with the hats and the hoods. And I actually saw a tweet last night. I was reading a guy who talked about that originally hats weren't allowed because when people would go into saloons and stuff, and they would have guns underneath their hats, so that's where like the whole no hats inside even came from. And we really don't have to worry about things like that anymore. So kind of so many kids, it's like it's a they like their hats just like you. And the hoodies, I'm the same way. I'm always walking around with scarves and stuff on me. I often struggle with what is the huge deal.
Right. Right. The only time I had an issue with a hat was on test day, because I used to use my hat to cheat. I was the hat's one of the great cheating tools, because you can pull it low over your eyes and you can bend it. And then you can put your hand there, and then you can copy a kid over here, right? So you're like, A, C, C, D, A. But I wouldn't fill in the circles because I would have to check their answer against theirs. So I'd be like, all right, right. And then you go like, but look, you can't even tell that I did it, right? Because my hand
Yeah,
stays there.
exactly.
And then it's A, C, C, D, A. Or no, this person's got A, C, C, D, B. And then I'd be like, all right, well, the first four, they have the same. So I'm just going to go with those. And number 5, she's got C, he's got B. And then I'd be like, which one of those 2 kids is smarter? And then I would try to do that one on my own so I didn't feel like I was cheating. But it was a great tool for that. And by the way, I've seen that with masks now. Have you seen that? There's been pictures of kids
again,
who have
5th and 6th grade, little different.
Yeah, they're writing answers inside their masks, like on tests and quizzes. They're using it as a cheat sheet, and they're pulling it out like this, and they're using it. Kids are creative. You got to give it to them.
They are, and they write that, and they don't even realize they're studying. Like, you just studied everything. You probably already know it. I was creative like that. I wasn't always academically honest. I'll be the first one. I always look for the easy way out. That's what we do.
But it's not always the easy way out. I mean, it took a lot of skill. Like I told you, like I had to wear my hat and I had to make sure nobody caught me. And I mean, there was a lot of thought and a lot of planning that went into some of those things. But look, the reason that I did it is because I gave them what they were asking for, right? They wanted grades. They didn't care about when I was a kid. And I still think they really still don't. They didn't care how hard I worked, right? I mean, you could work really hard and get a 50% and they call you a failure. And then you had other kids who studied for 5 minutes, right? Didn't work hardly at all, got a 97 and were always told how great they are. So I quickly learned the only thing that really matters are outcomes, right? What score did I get? And so, right, that's what I tried to give them, what they wanted. So I don't blame myself for it. That's my point.
It all works out in the end.
It usually does. So how long have you been where you are now? And tell me the progression of your career.
Okay. So, I graduated. I was a December college graduate and I subbed for a couple days and then fell into a job for the rest of the year in 6th grade. And those kids are in their 30s, which is crazy, going to their weddings and things like that. And then the following year, there were only 4 people hired in the whole district. I got a kindergarten job here in Collinsville, taught kindergarten just for a year, then went to 5th grade. And at that time, Collinsville, we were K-6 buildings. And so I taught 5th grade in a K-6 building until we moved here to DIS to have 5th and 6th grade all mixed in. Taught here for like 4 years, 5th grade, then left and went to a 3rd grade position for several years. And then came back as assistant principal, and that was 11 years ago. So I've been able to grow in this position in a whole lot of ways. So many things have changed in just that 11 years as far as how we work with kids and work with families.
Do you have a story or a kid that jumps out as one of the hardest kids that you ever had to teach? Or scenarios or situations?
There's a couple and I still get, did I move again?
You're good. You're fine.
I still get to see those kids and, there's those kids. There was a student my first year teaching 5th grade that, was on the autism spectrum. And, the following year I had another student who was on the autism spectrum, but his mom got a hold of me like in April before, I even knew at all, I was going to have him or anything. And she gave me reading materials and people to books to read and things like that. And I was so much more prepared. And I always thinking back, I always wish that I would have had that knowledge with that student who, when cheese pizza got changed in the cafeteria, ended up under the desk for the rest of the day. And I feel like after reading the books, just those 2 couple books, because again, social media, this is 20 something years ago. So social media, none of those things were around to really help with that. I think back on him and the different things that we accomplished through that. And then thinking like now how much even more accomplished that would be through education. And that's another place where social media has helped us is, with this situations like that, you can find somebody who's having a similar type thing. I have several students that I've, stuck with throughout the years that spent a lot of time in here as students when I was, their assistant principal, and just super proud of the progress that they've made and the things that they're doing in their lives. I like to see those things as kids move forward. Specific students. I think of one that just I never really was able. I was a young teacher, and I feel like today I could make so much more of an impact. But
so what happened? So with that one, I can see you thinking about it while you're talking, and you're like reminiscing.
So it just
talk me through
was a student. I was a second year teacher, and the student had a lot of emotional issues going on and things, and was on lots of different medications, and parents didn't see it that way. You would have angry outbursts and just kind of just, and then parents wouldn't, they'd bring somebody in, an advocate, to kind of yell at everybody. And here I was, a second year teacher. I really didn't know that much. So he would cuss, scream, yell, never really got violent towards anyone, but he was kind of self-harm. And I think that, again, 20 something years ago, the difference is huge compared to what we do for kids now, to how we reacted then.
So what would you, so when you look back at it, what would you, and you, like, let's say you had a do-over with him, what things would you feel like you could do differently?
I would work to establish a better relationship with him right off the bat, find things that he liked to do, that connections that we could make. I would work on him connecting with other kids in the class. Definitely work with his mom a lot more. And I think we could have made a difference together had we not clashed on, the behaviors. And we focused too much on that and not enough on moving forward and things that he could do. So I think that, and that was the time of, homework. You have to have this much homework. There are so many things that I feel like students like that. He didn't need the homework. He needed, the one-on-one time with me and things that would really have made a difference with him. The, softer, the time, the, more breaks.
It sounds like almost your willingness and ability to adjust yourself versus trying to adjust the kid, right? Like, and I think that's a classic mistake that so many of us make as educators when we look at behavior, right? Where the goal usually is external. The thought process is, this kid's misbehaving. How do I change the kid, right? That's right. And look, that's, if you look at most schools, that's kind of the system, right? I mean, what's the system? Kid misbehaves, right? Teacher writes a referral, kid gets a consequence, right? Whether it's a detention or phone call home or in-school suspension or suspension. Again, I'm not judging or criticizing those things, but notice what they all have in common, right? The focal point is external. Change the kid, change the kid, change the kid, change the kid. When that doesn't work, and it's this is how it is now, right? We turn to things like tickets and stickers and rewards, right? And again, right? No judgment, but what's the common denominator, right? All of those things focus externally. Change the kid, change the kid, change the kid. And I think one thing that a lot of us fail to realize and remember is that we don't have any power in the world over changing other human beings. We only have control over changing ourselves.
I think that's so important. And when you talk about your addiction recovery and the things that you've accomplished in those ways. So, throughout the course of my teaching career, like I've, my like 4th or 5th year teaching didn't have anything to do with teaching. I went on Weight Watchers and I've, throughout the course of time, lost like 100 pounds.
Wow.
Okay. So along with that, here I am, I'm a mom and all that. We were a disaster. We would run late, and my kids didn't have anything to do with it, but I would run late, all these, it was just, we'd get there right on time, or we'd be 5 minutes late, and that sort of thing. I mean, we pulled into school one day and I had forgot to tell my son or put shoes on my child. He was a 1st grader. And I was like, okay, there's socks in the back seat, go, I'll be right back. I'll go home and get you socks and come back. So then I read, are you familiar at all with Bobby Bones, the radio host? Okay, so he's on the radio here in St. Louis and things. He's nationwide, and he had written a book, Fight, Grind, Repeat, and in it, it talks about being on time, the importance of being on time. And I'm kind of, okay, yeah, I need to. So within the last 5 or 6 years, I've totally changed that about myself. I think people have to look at themselves, and we have to work with kids and teach kids. I said this morning on the announcements, hope you all got a good night's sleep. You've got to get a good night's sleep. You got to put those devices down and get a good night's sleep. It'll make a difference, I promise, if you get some sleep. Things like that, I think, that are so important to teach kids, that we know that you have to change yourself. Like, you're the only one who can change your attitude.
Yep. And it's interesting because when you answered that question, when I said, what would you do differently, right? That was your focal point. Your focal point was, well, I would focus on connection more, and I would focus on helping him build relationships with other kids, right? Like, the focal point isn't on what the kid can do different. The focal point is what I can do differently. And, and that's the thing about behavior. Like, it's not that the kid cussed or that the kid said something inappropriate. The question is, how did I respond when the kid cussed, right? Did I get offended? Did I get annoyed? Did I get upset? Or did I just smile, right? And say, yep, I guess I'm kind of a dick, right? But I could be a bigger one. Would you like to see? Like, which way did I respond? And the response is the key, right? Not what the kid says, but how I responded. And that's one thing as an adult that we always have control over, or we should always have control over, right? Nobody makes you feel a certain way, right? That's the other thing I keep saying to teachers right now about how tired they are. Like, teachers right now are tired. And I keep saying to them, I'm not saying you're not tired. What I am saying is, no other human being can allow you to feel a certain way without your permission. Like, you have to give permission, right, for somebody to make you feel some way. At some point, you have to just say, I care enough about what that person thinks to allow myself to get offended or annoyed or upset. And why do you care so much? Like, whatever. It's a 7-year-old. Like, he's just, he hasn't eaten breakfast. He's exhausted, right? He had an abusive parent screaming at him last night. Like, and he came in and took it out on you, right? I mean, you don't have to take it personally.
It's not personal. It's never personal, and I think that's an important thing for kids and adults, to remember, especially adults. Like, no, don't take it personal. It's okay. That, it's going to be okay. Don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. And take it upon yourself. If you've got too much, take something off your plate. Don't keep adding, we talk about different initiatives and different things we're doing, and we're doing SEL learning and all this. So look at your schedule, decide what you can take off of it. If you're giving a spelling test every single week and you're stressing out because you're still making kids write their spelling words 5 or 6 times each or whatever it is, stop doing that. Right. It's okay to stop doing that. Their phone's going to correct it for them, even though it'll be wrong. Their computer corrects it for them. They'll figure it out, work on doing correct spelling and writing or something like that.
Work on editing. How about working on editing? Work on really rereading what you've written before you hit send or post, right? Like because you're right. Like, everything will correct for you, but will it correct correctly? And make that your teaching, right? Can you edit things appropriately better than can you memorize everything so well?
Take something off your plate, to help with it, to help yourself and your own sanity, and, learn to say no. And be honest, when you say no, like, oh no, I'm just not feeling that. You have to be honest with people when they, ask you for more and more things, to give more and more of yourself.
Agreed. And I think right now, more than ever this year, it's important for teachers to give kids the same thing that teachers are asking for, right? So, like, when I go on social media, I see the same kind of posts, right? We're asking for grace. We're asking for compassion. We're asking to be listened to. We're asking to get second chances. We're asking for people to not always, make everything, not always want us to be perfect. And what I keep saying to teachers is that's fine, and I'm with you. But if you're asking that from society, then that's what you need to give your kids, right?
Yep.
That exact, because I think some people are asking that from some places, but then they're not giving it other places.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to, and you've got to look within yourself to dig deep and find that those different things, and if you don't choose your mood, somebody else is going to choose it for you 100%, and so I'm, try my best, at all times to apologize when I need to, because even with my own kids, I'll say sometimes, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have overreacted like that, put whatever you want in your lunch. But like we also have to remember that stuff when we get frustrated. And I know people will come in here and I'll kind of start ranting, and I catch myself, luckily most of the time, I'm like, I'm not meaning that towards you.
Right.
I'm super sorry. Like, give me 1 second to kind of take a step back, and then I'll look at it again. And I think that is so important, that we also show kids that, like, that we make mistakes, we say things we shouldn't say. Don't let it ruin your entire day. Keep a positive attitude about things and keep moving forward.
I think all of us in our lives, I'll speak for myself, I know I do this, but I think most people in their lives take out their biggest annoyances, aggravations, and frustrations on the people they actually love and care about the most.
Without a doubt.
And that's the safe place to unload it, right? Like, you're not going to unload your annoyances and aggravations here with me right now. Like, you're going to put on your best face and your best, right? But so what happens then? Your child walks in, or your husband walks in, or right, and that's one where you're like, enough, like, I don't want to hear it, like, I'm tired, and you're just like, whoa, I didn't mean that, but this happened and that happened, the other thing happened. And I think it's important for teachers to remember that we're on the front lines of this whole game. Like, we're often the first person that the kid sees in the morning after they had a really rough night, or a really exhausting morning, or they've been through more in the last 24 hours than I have in 45 years on planet Earth. And so they come in and they take it out on me sometimes. And I think we all need that safe place in our life to unload. I think that's an important thing for every one of us to have. And I think sometimes when a kid is doing that, it can be really healthy to just look at the kid and say, you know what, I see that's what you need right now. I see right now you need that safe place. And you know what, I could be that for you. Go ahead. I'm not going to take anything you say personally, but go ahead and shut the door first, but then go ahead and unload. And
let it go.
Right. And we all need that spot where we can do it in a safe place, and we don't have to worry about getting in trouble or someone getting mad at us.
Yeah. And to have that balance. And I know, I probably haven't shared before, my boyfriend's son has some unique needs. And he actually has Fragile X syndrome, which kind of mirrors autism. But so we, on vacation this summer, we were with some family friends, and at this, family dinner, and did great. We were outside, everything was great. And as we left to go back to the hotel, like, Brady had kept it all in the entire time, and he starts to, get mad and kind of fly off the handle. And I was kind of like, to my boyfriend, I was like, just let it go. Just let it go. Just let it go. He's held it together for like 2.5 hours and been awesome. Just let it go. Let it go. And that's what we did. You just kind of do your rant and then it's fine. But so often, exactly like that, you just have to let something go. You're taking it out on the people you love the most. They're going to be there. I think kids do that to us here at school. So, sometimes as teachers, I'm really lucky. I work with two. Our principal's amazing. The other assistant is amazing. And we get a chance to laugh and kind of, have some laughs about things. And that's, humor is the biggest part of it. That was, always my defense mechanism. I would say something funny. I was the bigger kid in school. If somebody would make fun or something like that, I would, kind of with humor. But as I've grown, I still use humor and try to find the humor in things, all the time. I think that's important for kids too.
Has that been a battle for you your entire life, the weight issue?
Yes.
Like you said, so literally from the time you can remember.
Yes, from the time I can remember. And then, like I said, and had tried, different fads and all those things, but you have to be ready for it, when you have to be prepared to do it. I can't even remember an incident that made it, click or anything. Kind of started walking my sister's dog, on things like that, and then just kind of progressed from there. And like I said, Weight Watchers has always been the thing that had worked, the best for it. So that, I feel like definitely food addiction is a legit thing, where you have to work on and get yourself, through it. And I still, there's times I'll stress eat. I'm, one of those stress eaters. But, overall, I think it helps to, when you're working with other people, when you're working with kids. I have those experiences that I'll share with kids, and I'll share stories, from what a kid I remember saying something to me like, I thought you'd lose weight over the summer. And I still remember that. And I say to the kids, I was at this school and out there, and I remember it. They don't remember it, but I remember it. You have to watch what you say to people. People never forget that. And kids will, like, when I say that to kids, sometimes they'll be like, what? Somebody said that to you? I'm like, 30 years ago, it was a long time ago, but I remember it. So you need to remember to watch your words. People aren't going to forget those things. You
Yeah.
have to watch what you say.
Yeah. I think in order to change anything fundamental in a person's life, they have to, we use the term in recovery, you have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. And at some point, you got to decide enough is enough, right? And no one can do that for you, right? That's a decision that only comes from inside. But I do think the kids can help. And I notoriously talk about in my workshops how, the homework assignment that I used to give on Monday every year, every kid was they were required to come in on Tuesday and ask me how my recovery meeting went Monday night. They had no other responsibility, right? But to come in and hold me accountable. And that was the best thing for me, because I'd walk in, even like there were a lot of nights, especially early in my recovery, where I didn't want to go to a meeting, or like it was snowing out, or it was cold, or it was, like I had 50 excuses for why, but knowing that the next day my kids were going to ask if I went, that was enough to make me say, you know what, I'm going, because I don't feel like dealing with having to say no and then having to hear 100 questions about why I didn't go and trying to make excuses. And and so I tell people all the time, that's a great concept anyway, right? The concept of getting kids to take care of us, right? We spend so much time taking care of them, but when we can flip that and get the helped to become the helper, you often see a significant change in certain kids.
Yeah, I love that. And when you tell that at your workshops, I love hearing that, because I think it also helps kids to realize, like, I can do hard things. That's, we tell kids all the time, you can do hard things, but they also need to see that the adults that they care about and that care about them are also doing hard things. We're all dealing with hard things. We're all trying our best. And
Right.
I think that it's important for kids to know that, because we have their back. Like I said, I try to stay in touch with kids and groups that I have. And a couple of years ago, I had the group of kids that came through. They're sophomores in college now, but they stuck together as a basketball team. We had a great basketball team in that. And my dad was a huge basketball fan and a huge supporter of them. Like, I had been talking about them since they were in 5th grade. This group of kids, dad, this group of kids, dad. And he became really close to them. And then when he was sick in the hospital, they went and visited him, which was amazing to me. I'm like, I always tell my kids, I've got your back. You can get a hold of me. I've got your back. I'll walk with you to the edge of the cliff. If you decide to jump off, you have to go by yourself, because I'm not jumping off, but I'll walk with you to the edge. I've got your back. And I'm like, all those times I feel like maybe they were thinking, she had our back. Well, they had my back. They went and, visited him. And I think that those relationships are important for kids as they become adults, that they know that, through high school, I'm checking in, can't check in on everybody, but I'll check in on you. I'll see you at events. And I think that's important for them moving forward as adults too, because the work we're doing is not just dealing with kids when they're 10, 11, and 12. They're going on. They're going to represent our community. And lots of them probably come back here and teach someday,
Yeah, yeah. So normally I ask people if there's anything at the end that they want to wrap up with, but I feel like what you just said is a great place to wrap up, because the concept of them visiting your dad, right? Like, they're not even going to visit you, they're going to visit your dad. Wow, like, what better connection could you have built, and for them to be there, not just for you, but for your family, which is an incredibly powerful thing. Yeah. Sara, if people want to stay in touch with you, how can they do so?
So I'm on social media, just my name, Twitter at Sara Soehlke, and then same thing with Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Yeah. All right, everybody. We appreciate you joining us, Sara. It was so good seeing you. Thanks for coming on today.
So good to see you. Thank you so much. Right. Take care.
Yay. Bye. Everybody else, don't forget to rate, subscribe, download, review. I'll be back with you same time next week. Until then, I say peace. I'm out of here.
Thanks, Brian.